Good morning, everyone. I see some of you on already. Good morning. Welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. It's a good day to watercolor. I love Wednesdays. I love being on with all of you guys. And I've got a really fun project. It is the Scenic Foundation. So it's the little wooden cabin, kind of out in the woods. So by popular request, you guys picked that one for the next live. And I'm going to ask you that again. Do you want to see another one live next week, or do you want to move on to something else? So you guys have all chimed in and said you want to see another Scenic Foundation live. So that is what we're going to do. And I have two versions of it. I did the first one kind of traditional, and then I did the second one with a little different color palette and a little different feel. So I'm going to let you guys choose which one we're going to do today. And then we're going to add a page to the journal from the last tutorial that Kim did of the little beach one. So we're going to get to all of that, but I want to say hi to all of you first and get my comments set up. Okay, here we go. I see you guys on there. Good morning to all of you. Hello, Julie. She's on. Ruth Ann is on. Ruth Anna's vote is another. Okay, you guys. Okay, so today I am determined that I just had this mental talk with myself this morning. Okay, I need to slow it down, and I need to check the comments and make sure you guys see if you guys are asking questions. So be prepared with your questions. I'm going to really make an effort to try to look. In fact, I'm going to move my iPad so that it's right in my line of vision so that I can see if there are any questions. And I'm going to try really hard to slow it down today, you guys. We're going to carefully go through the project just in case there are anything that you guys are questioning. So do it with me today. Here is the, if you have this, here's the one that we're doing. So get that stamped onto your watercolor paper, and we are going to do that one today, and you can follow along with me. I promise I will try to slow down. So, hello, Barbara. Oh, Barbara's been on a 3-week vacation. Oh, wow. Good for you. Where were you, Barbara? I hope you had a great time. Kathy is on. Teresa, hello. Michelle, hello. Michelle from Australia, hello. Hugs to you too. Debbie Hedges is watching. Meredith is on. Tina, hello. So glad to be with you too today. I love this so much. I probably tell you guys that every week, but it is so true. I love teaching you new things, and I love having things that inspire you. So that is what I hope to continue to do until I'm 100. So there's lots more watercolor coming your way. Terry is on. Terry Carroll, hello. Mary, hello from Michigan. Good to see all of you. Margot from Idaho. Happy Wednesday, Diana. Hello to Joy. She is from Wildemar, California. Good morning from Running Springs, California to Anna. Ginger, hello. Jane, hello. Kathy, hello. Linda, hello. Hi to all of you. Thanks for being with me. I love being here, even though I'm by myself in the office. I'm with all my friends, so I love that. Don't you guys feel that way? Even though you're, maybe you're watching this with a friend, but don't you just feel like all your people are on? It's something, it's really hard to record a video now after doing lives. It's really kind of lonely to record a video because even though I'm by myself here at my desk, I feel like I'm with all of you. So, I love that. And, you guys talking to each other and saying hi to everyone. Yes, Julie, love this group for sure. Just the best. Okay. Are you guys ready to get on to the project? I'm going to switch my camera around, and, I'm going to move my iPad so it's directly in my line of vision to see if you guys have any comments or questions for me. I'm going to do a tally. So there is project 1 and project 2. And all you have to do in the comments is type in 1 or 2. And I've got Joel on. He's on right now. So he promised that he would tally those up for me. So I will know which project you guys want to do. So I'm going to switch my camera around. I'm going to show you both of them. And then you type in a 1 or a 2 in the comments. And Joel will have his calculator ready, and he can tell me what the total is. So let me switch this around. Okay, so let me move this over, make sure we are on screen. Okay, so here are the projects. This one is a little more traditional. This is more like, you know, kind of more wildernessy. It's got the, you know, the fir trees in the back. This looks like a mountain cabin that would be kind of in Oregon. The wildflowers are really simple. You don't even need to add wildflowers. You could just, you know, add the grasses and the trees and it would be so cute. So here's project 1. Here is 2. Now this one has a totally different feel. And I've used the warmer colors and I've changed the roof out a little bit and made a kind of a tin roof. I changed the boat color. I used some brighter greens and blues just to change up the water. This color of water is always my go-to, but you know, changing the watercolor changes the whole feel of the project. It really does. And you're not locked into one color. And just because you automatically grab that pen, which is what I do, I automatically grab this blue. It's fun to do something different and change it up. It really is. And I love this bright green. It's just a really warm, you know, bright green. And then I changed up the roof a little bit and, you know, the rest of it's pretty similar. I didn't do as many florals because I kind of wanted to focus on the greenery and keep it simple. So really the only pop of color is the boat. And it's warm and kind of cheerful like the rest of it. So do you like the more traditional number 2? Or do you like the a little more whimsical, warmer number 1? What is your vote? And I'm going to give you guys a chance to vote. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to just kind of, maybe I'll just lay these right here. Let's go ahead and assemble the page while Joel is doing this and we're doing the vote. So, you know, these have been so popular and I told you they would go in a journal. So I'm going to add another page. So the last page that we added in here, this was the first one. I still haven't done this tutorial, so I will. This was the first page just to show you. And then it was so cute putting this in a journal that I thought, let's just finish the whole journal. So then the next week I added this page and I just kind of created this simple little pocket from this same die right here. So I just turned it, you know, to the side and trimmed it off to fit onto the page. And that was it. I just glued a tiny little row of glue along the outside edge, added a little simple watercolor that I thought kind of went with this, and done. The page was done. So this is a really complex, these are really complex projects. So this on the side can be really simple. And really this is where you kind of want to draw your eye to is the big project. So you can make these really simple. Sometimes, you know, it's easy to get so involved with the pockets and all the little, you know, things that you can tuck in extra spaces, and you can totally do that. But you can also do them really simple, like this. This reminds me of a storybook. I just love it. I love that all the scenery is in here. I love that they're super easy to do, and you can coordinate your whole journal with the same colors that you're using. Now in this one, I'm using the Easter set. So this is the Easter paper pack. This is the one that we just came out with for the Easter journals, 5742. Wow, 5742. So this is on the website still. And I just picked it because I love all the colors in it. And I thought they really went with these soft colors in the background. So this was the second one. So here is, here's the little beach one that Kim did the tutorial of this one. So here's the original. And so I cut one of these again. And let me just tell you what set these are from. These are so handy. These might be my favorite dies now for the journal because they're so handy. These large ones here fill up a page. And, you know, they're made for the cover because they fit right on the cover of the journal. But they work great for these scenic foundations because they're a little bigger than this accent page. So you could cut it down smaller, but I love using the whole scene. So these things work great. This die works great. And this one, I use this one. So for this page, I use this one here. And then all you have to do is just trim it down. It's a little big for the page since it's made for the cover, but I just cut the edge off. So you've got two edges that you could use. You've got this little small scalloped edge too that looks just like this. That's on the other side. So you could switch it around and use that over there too. So I just cut that. I use that just to back my basic image here. And then I thought, what could go with this little scene? And, you know, something small that's really simple. There's a lot of busyness going on here. So I just picked out this little girls from the little girls, you know, the little kids line, and it has these little girls and they're in all their beach stuff. And I should have pulled that out. In fact, Joel, if you are on, and you could look up that, the number of this set with this little girl in it, would you just post that in the comments? I should have pulled that out so I could show you guys. But that is what this is. And I just put her on the sand. I did the beach kind of the same. So it kind of looks like it sort of runs together. And then I just picked this little boat and just added it to this little composition. So something really simple. And then this is just one of the frames from the die set. And I just kind of use the same paper. I love the simplicity of it. Like I said, there's a lot going on here and it's the focus of the page. So something little that can kind of coordinate with it, that kind of could go with it, I feel like is a plus. And I just left this white in the background. So I just cut a really nice piece. This is the accent frame that comes with the basic journal set. I just cut this out of plain, really nice white paper, so that I could kind of back it on the page and make it really simple, because then it really kind of pops and you really notice that little simple image in the center. So don't feel like you can do a simple page just by layering paper. You know, that's really easy to do. So let's glue this on. Let's just do this right now. And I've also added a page to the journal so we can do the other side. So I'm going to get my handy glue here and just glue this just kind of right along the edge. And I hope you guys are still voting. 1 for the whimsical, 2 for the traditional. And just put in the comments. Joel's counting, I'm sure. Okay, so this, make sure this is straight and it looks straight. So we'll glue that in. And then we're just going to glue this, and I just glued this into the frame. So I just cut this to fit the frame, and I'm just going to glue it in here like that. You could also use your frame die, and it will just cut the center out, and then it's the exact size. So you can do that too. This way of doing it kind of makes it pop out a little bit more because of that extra layer of paper behind it. But this is just so cute. You know, after I did this, I realized that I don't have a set of just beach things, you know, beach balls or beach buckets or things like that that can go into a beach set. So that's on my list, you guys. That will be coming, because I was looking for things where I need like a bucket, or, you know, I've got this little boat. That's cute. I've got the little girl, but what about a beach ball? That would be so cute. You could do that in a little circle. So that'll be coming. You know, when I do these projects, I always think of things that I still need. So I kind of, you know, just have ongoing lists all the time. And you guys send me suggestions, and I love that too. So I love your suggestions. They all go on a list. Leah has a spreadsheet for me, so I see them. So keep them coming. Keep them coming. And just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it's not coming. So, I love all of your ideas. So now you can see I kind of cut it down just to fit the page, just like this. And normally you could just glue this on first. I mean, I glued it together, but it really doesn't matter. So this was a really simple page to do, but I think it turned out cute. And then just make sure you're not gluing over the score line, obviously, so that the page can still turn and bend. Okay, there we go. That page is finished. So we've got 1, 2, 3 done. And then this week's page will go probably in the center. And then we'll go on from there and get the others done. So just so cute. Just really just a really fun little journal, and I think fun to make. And you could have like really cute sentiments about different places and, you know, friendship and just whatever. You could do a whole book of just really cute beachy things. You know, you could take things out separately. You could just do pots with, you know, in the sand. There's the little beach set with the seagulls. Like there's a lot of things like that that you could add into your journal. Okay, so let's set this aside. And okay, so Joel, is this your, okay, pretty close vote, but definitely seeing more number twos. Okay, number two it is, you guys. So we are going to do the traditional one here with the trees in the background and the darker colored blue. But, you know, if you want to take a screenshot of this, there won't be a tutorial for it, but you could take a screenshot, and you know, those of you who have been doing this a long time, I'm sure you can figure this out. Everything is the same. It's just that, you know, the coloring is different. And if you want, I can post the markers that I used in here too, if that's helpful for you. So, okay, let's move this aside and let me get everything out that I'm using for this. Okay, so here is the set that we're doing. This is the wooden cabin set 5747. This one we've done already, the stone bridge. There are 6 of these, and by the way, the bundle is still available. So if you haven't gotten these, you still want them, the bundle discount is still available. So that is all 6 in one bundle with a discount. The stone bridge, the beach cabin that we just put into the journal. This one we still need to do the picket fence, the cute little village, and this one, the creek. So we're going to be doing one of these 3. So if you want to see one of these 3, let me know in the comments, because my plan was to record these and then kind of move on to something else. But I will happily do these, do another live for you with these if that's helpful and you want to do it with me. Okay, so here's what I used. Let's move these all out of the way. So let me just look through this stack, because I had everything that I used for both projects. So let me make sure that I have everything here. So I've got the large vine, the little grass. So we're going to be using those. The little dots floral, this one right here. This little one here, we're going to be using that. Let's see, I think just those 2. The branches, you know, we may or may not use these. Sometimes, depending on, you know, how it's coming together, we have room for it, and sometimes we don't. So, you know, to be determined on that. Definitely the small vine, this one right here, we'll be using that. And probably the accent grass. Again, we'll just see how much space we have. These all turn out different every time. Nothing in this set. The fir tree. So we're going to be using those. Can you just picture this snowy, you guys? When we start doing Christmas projects, I think this is going to be so cute. I absolutely cannot wait to do it snowy, and I haven't done that yet. But we can freeze over that little creek. It's going to be so cute. Put the boat kind of in the ice. Oh, it's just going to be so cute. It'll be really fun. So we're going to use that little tree. And then these leaves right here from the tree set, we're going to use those probably. And then in addition, we'll be using the vine as well. So probably a combination of both of those. And I think that's it. Okay, so I have pre-stamped my image, and I use the 2 colors that we always use. Excuse me. The dark blue and the dark brown. So the dark blue first, 565. And then the 969, the dark brown, right over the top. Stamp it off twice. And then you have this really light, perfectly stamped image right here. And then I took one of my little acrylic sheets. So there are 2 of them, you know, that come with your clear stamp. And I cut one that is 2 3/4 by 4. And I just leave it with these when I'm using these. And if you lay it over the top, it's the exact size of these projects. And so I stamp it first, and then I lay this acrylic over the top, and then I trace around it with a pencil. So let me grab a pencil here and just kind of put it where you just kind of line it up from the bottom to the top. And everything should fit in here. And then just draw a pencil line along the edges. Okay, and now we've got, whoops, we didn't get this frame here. Let's do this side. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to move my iPad. Does anybody have any questions for me yet? Since I'm looking right at it. Okay, let's see. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, I'm watching you guys as I'm doing this, so I'm going to see if I can manage to be this coordinated. All right, so now we're going to take some Post-it tape, and you can use, I've got a ton of it on here, so I'm just going to use this Post-it tape that I have already. I just stick this to my desk, and, you know, I just use it again, you know, until it gets really inked up. But it's amazing how many times you can use this, and it sticks great. So it's really kind of budget friendly. Let me find another one here. This one. And just kind of lay it right along that pencil line. And when we're finished, we'll just erase that pencil line. Okay. All right, there we go. We are set to do our project right now. So I'm going to try to leave this right here in the screen, and maybe just try to zoom in a little bit closer. All right, and I'll try to keep I know there's been a problem with this camera zooming in and focusing on my hand, so I'm going to try to be conscious of that and try to keep my hand out of the way as much as possible. All right, so I've got my palette in here. I've got my water over to the side, and I'm going to start out with my number 4 brush, this one right here, and dip it in water and pinch it off. I'm going to pinch this off, and then I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to pull the color out of the lines. Just kind of drag this over and just put a little color on the side. Now this inside here where the door is, that's going to be darker, so we can add a little more color in here. The chimney, you know, you want to keep those light highlights on the top of the stones. So, and this is, you know, pretty far back in the distance, so we don't have to worry too much about detail on here. You know, we just need to see that it's made of stone, and, you know, we don't have to, you know, stress out about it too much. And then, you know, a lot of this is just landscape. So we're just going to pull this out kind of to the side. Like so. Add a little water to the side. These little posts back here from the dock, those are going to be darker because they're set back in the distance, and they're going to be darker. And this little boat, this is actually on the shady side here, so we can kind of color that in a little darker. And then down in here, you know, kind of in between where these seats are, that's going to be a little darker down inside. And this is just the beginning stage. And this is so we can get a really good perspective as to where the highlights and the shadows are. In other words, we want to see it start to look three-dimensional. And the tree, you know, we can add some more color to it. We're going to add some vines that are kind of growing up on it. So we want to keep it pretty light to start out with. I've got this cute little stump here. You could set something up on it, you know, a little chipmunk or a squirrel. That would be really cute. Put a little bird on it. That would be so cute. So take your time with this part. This is really fun because it really changes as you're going. And just pulling the color out of the lines. Always remember things that are a dome, like this rock. This is a dome. That highlight is on the top. It's on the top. Anything that's a contour, like a cone, then that highlight is on the side. And even things like this little stump, you can see these little contours here. These are all rounded. And so they're going to have a highlight. That just means it's going to be darker in between these lines. And see, with the dome like this, because that highlight is on top, that just means the shadow is down below. So it's just the opposite. A little darker spot in here. And then the roof, we'll be adding some color to that, so we don't have to do too much to it right now. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's continue on and let's add some color now to our palette. And this is the 969, and looks like I might need a new marker soon. This one, you know, these just get worn out. This one and the dark blue. You know, the 565, these two, we just use them all the time. So I'm going to add some of this, and then I'm going to add some of this green. This is the 228. It's kind of a grayish green. I'm going to add some of that into my little structure. It almost looks a little mossy, the color of it, and I think it will go really well with this dark brown. So we're going to start out light and try not to color everything in solid. Okay. What do you guys think of these? Because they've been out for a little bit now. I know a lot of you have done them. What do you think? Are these, is this something that you think you would use all the time? Should I add to this line? Because I'm always curious about that when I come out with something. Is it something that you want more of? Or are you kind of content with this and maybe looking for something a little bit different? So I would just really love your feedback on that. Dipali, yes, please add to this line. Okay, good to know. Good to know, because I also love these. And you know, it's fun putting these scenes together too, you know, on your own. But if you have that option where you have something that's all together and it's all sized to go together, then I think it's really helpful. And if I always try to think, okay, if I were starting out with this technique, what would I be frustrated with? What would I want to see more of? And especially until you get your perspective down and really kind of understand how things go back into the distance and come forward. And, you know, sometimes it's about positioning, and, you know, it kind of takes all that, you know, thought out of it. And I love making these. These were so much fun. So I would, you know, love to do more of these. Love more of these. Okay, Barb. Thank you. Tina, yes. Georgia, yes. Georgia, the queen. Meredith, yes. Okay, you guys. Oh, I appreciate that so much. Appreciate your feedback so much, because I'm never sure. So that's really encouraging. Okay, so let's do the windows here. Even though they're small, now, you know, I know because we're adding brown in here for the trim, you could color the whole thing in solid and then just draw in the brown details. But I think it still looks better to do it like this. I think it still looks better. And I've tried it both ways, and I think it looks more natural. And, you know, for time's sake, I mean, it's much easier to just color in the whole window. But and then draw your little window panes in. But, you know, if you have the time, I feel like it's better to do it this way. Probably could have used a smaller brush here, getting these little windows in. But you know what? They don't have to be perfect. So that's what I always say. They don't have to be perfect. All right, so I'm going to add a little of this green into this area here underneath. It's kind of it's a little grayer in color, and I think it will work really good. And this is just in the shadow here. So this area we're going to keep pretty light. Okay, let's do the door, and let's do a darker door like this. And we'll come back in and put some more detail in there when we come back to it. And while I've got a little of this brown on my brush, I'm just going to add a little bit to the stones. These stones, you know, where this chimney is, I mean, there could be a lot of colors. Just be careful when you're adding color that you don't lose the highlight. And if you happen to, you can come back with the white paint and just add a little highlight back in, which we probably will do anyway. You know, you could add, you know, a little green to it. I mean, it's probably a little mossy. But don't worry too much about this. Like I said, it's pretty far in the distance. And, you know, we just want to see that it's stones. So we're not going to worry too much about that. Okay, so let's keep going here. And I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to switch out my brush and get my smaller one. This is the number 1, or it might be a 0. 1 or a 0. This is a 1. And I'm going to just color in these little posts. Like so. And then we can just put a little darker edge on here. And then under here, under this roof, that's going to be a little darker edge there too. Make this a little darker. And then I'm going to just take my little Twintone. Oh, Diana, a desert one would be neat. Yes, it would. Yeah, that's a great idea. You know, a lot of you live in those really, you know, dry climates. And, you know, you have little cabins like this in a different environment. All right, so I'm going to just draw it down the side of this cabin, because if we're looking, we're going to see this edge, not this edge. And this one, because we're looking this way, we're going to see this edge of the window on the top. Such a little thing, but it really makes a difference. Your eye just sees it and knows. So let's just, you know, while we've got this little pin, let's just make a little detail on the door like that. Okay, how many of you are following along with me? And am I going slow enough? Are you keeping up? What a difference that made. I know, it really does. It's such a little thing, but it's all the little things. It's all just the little tricks. Now I'm just going to soften this up a little bit. And then we can add in and you know what? I think we need to do it with this fine tip. It just, you know, when you do it like this, it feels like the window panes are separate from the window. Okay. I'm gonna make these little windowsills just a little darker with my fine tip. Okay, it's coming together. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to put our lines in and put our detail into here. So don't stress out about this. We're going to use our handy pencil that we absolutely love. And you don't even have to do this. You could do this and make this cabin way darker. It's pretty light in this composition, but you could make it way darker and really make this, you know, a woodsy cabin. Okay, where is my ruler? And you know, I always use a clear ruler because I have to see through it. So that really helps. You see these lines here? That's what you want to follow, are these lines. And you know, sometimes it's easier to kind of start in the middle if you're not sure. Just start in the middle like that, and then you can kind of split the difference here, you know, with this line down below. And then, you know, up here, let's just turn it. It's easier to see this way because I can see this one above and I can see how, what the distance is. And it just, you know, it doesn't take that long, but it really adds a lot of detail. And if they're not all even, well, and that really bugs you, you can just erase it and draw it again. And I feel like we probably need just one more down here. This was kind of spaced out a lot. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now you can follow this line where these boards are and just continue them over to the other side. And we're going to kind of follow this line here. And I'm just going to draw it in because it's a little easier to see where that line is. And now I can just, you know, I'm going to turn it again. And I can follow this line down here and just continue these lines. And they don't, like I said, they don't have to be perfect. You know, it's an old rustic cabin, so maybe some of the boards are like, you know, a little crooked. And then, you know, when you finish it, look at it and see if it looks right. And you can tell, especially if you have the angle down here drawn in, you can kind of see if it's going the right way. See how that comes to a point there and then goes over? And this one, we can just kind of follow this one over. Yeah, these aren't, they're not even. I mean, you could, you know, you could measure them too if you want to. I just, you know, I rarely measure anything if I don't have to. Okay, I think that looks cute. Now, with this one up here, you could continue it all the way to the top like I did here, but you could also turn it and make your boards a little more decorative. And just do them this direction. And this is cute too. So it just kind of changes it a little bit. And then, you know, you can just, you know, all with your pencil, kind of separate these boards. Do you see how that, I just kind of separated a little, kind of went down in between these lines to kind of bring them forward. And there we go. So now let's add another shadow in here. And let's add just a little bit of brown. kind of in between here, and just run your brush along, kind of along these lines, and you'll get some of this color to come out. Just to kind of dirty it up a little bit so that it's not all just perfectly white. And then we got to do our big shadow here. This is the one that is really important. And, you know, we could come right down along this chimney too. And it just flattens that side of the chimney. And we could have a little bit of an overhang here too. And, you know, we could just put a little bit of a shadow under here too. Okay, now I'm going to take my little Twintone and I'm going to darken this in here, really darken this here. And I'm going to turn this now and darken this under the roof. So you can really see that detail of the roof coming forward. And then let's add just a little more color to it. And you can see this, you know, this is the brown, the 969. There's a variation in color with these, and especially when you get to the end of your, to the end of your marker where it's starting to, you know, just be done, they can tend to be a lot greener. And that looks like what's happening here. You see how green that is? Some of these, let me just show you. Here's a 969 also. Look how brown that is. You see the difference? And especially if we were to, you know, look on the back side here. Actually, let me just find a scrap paper. Here's this one. You see the green in that color? And then here's this one. You see the brown in it. So if you add a little bit of blue to it, or you could add a little bit of this gray-green to it, you can get this combination. You can get this greener brown if that's what you like. See how that just adds to it. Or maybe you just really like this brown color. So let's mix these two together and see what we get. This is that green. See, that's closer to this. So don't be afraid to do that. You know, they do vary in color. It really bugs me that they do that. And I don't know why exactly, because it should be the exact same ink, but they do have a lot of variation, but you can fix that. And that's a lot of the reason why we add the blue and the brown together, is to tone this down so it's not so bright and it looks a little more earthy, like the color of dirt. The color of dirt has this greener look to it. And you can get that just by mixing. So if that's frustrating to you, I get it. I know it's you know, it's been frustrating for me too. Okay, so I'm going to now just add a little darker color to my windows. And a little darker color up here. And I think I'm going to just add a little darker green. I really like this kind of mossy green in here. Okay, now let's add some detail and we will be able to kind of move on to the next project here. Let me flip this back over. So you can do the roof, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. Let's get some darker color on here. And we'll just pick up some of this and just make some little details in here. Let me use my smaller brush. And you want this, you know, pretty dark. And just follow the lines, you know, the roof lines. And, you know, if the lines are a little wavy, that's okay because the roof is probably a little wonky. And, you know, you could make a little hole in the roof if you want to. Separate some of these boards. That would also be cute and give it some kind of some character. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of brown in between some of these stones. And kind of along here on the side too. Okay, there we go. Okay, you guys have any, Meredith, I didn't expect the variation in color like dye lots, but neat to see how you use this. Oh, I don't expect the variation in color like dye lots, but neat. Yeah, it's really, because you think that every pen should be the exact same. And this is a really important pen. So if it's a green or something like that, it's not as critical than it is when it's something like this. It's much more critical. Okay, so I'm just, you know, darkening in. And in retrospect, I probably should have darkened these window panes before I brushed in the brown. But I feel like they were just a little bit too light with the lightness of the cabin. Okay, I feel like that's better. And you could now with your Twintone, you could kind of make some little shingles in here. And you know, you can make them kind of all different spacing. You know, like this is just really a random little roof that's been around for a long, long time. And, you know, maybe some of them kind of are lifting a little bit. You know, just by darkening in a crack, you kind of create an opening. So if you darken in those little creases, you sort of create an opening. And, you know, just coming along the side, it kind of lifts these up too. And then over here, you could just make a little zigzag line, and that will also show that. So let me just hold this up. See what I mean by that? That detail. Don't make it too big or too obvious because this is set back in the distance. And so you wouldn't see too much detail back in there. Okay, so let's move on, you guys. Let's move on. All right, so let's add some green now. And I'm going to use my warm green and my cool green. So let me just move this over a bit. And I'm going to use my 177. Okay, did you guys, who's doing this with me? Making it a log cabin changes the whole look. I know it does, Tina. It really does. The little details sometimes with using your pencil. And for me, the pencil is the most forgiving because if your lines aren't right, you just erase them and do them again. Even if you're doing lines over something that's already been colored, just erase it and do it again. So you're not ruining your whole composition, your whole painting, if you've, got a line wrong. And you have to start all over again. Because sometimes watercolor, when it comes to things like that, you can't go back and do it over. And sometimes when I'm doing things on my, my computer, I can just do, like a backup, just back up, and undo. And sometimes when I'm doing a watercolor, I sort of, mentally think undo. And then it's like, oh, I can't undo. So then I get this out. I get this undo. This will undo it. So, there's always ways to start over, but thankfully these are not a huge investment in time in that you don't have a lot of time invested, even in some of these bigger projects, not hours. Some people have days, in their paintings. And then what if they make a mistake? What do they do? They can't go back and correct it. So it is really nice to be able to use something like that, a pencil, because it really, it's such a useful tool. I mean, I use a pencil all the time. Okay, so let's brush some color in now. We've got our dark green. We've got our, our olive green. So 228. This is probably like a sage green. And then we've got our cool green. So 249. Can we win? Yes, you can win the samples. Yes. Debbie, yes, I'm doing a release for the Bible journaling. Absolutely, yes. Love to see a schoolhouse. You know what? A schoolhouse is on my list. Funny you should say that because I think a schoolhouse would be so cute. And there's so many people that, would love that. If you've got kids in school and you want to make something special for a teacher or just an administrator, anybody involved in Sunday school or, homeschooling or just, whatever. Okay, I'm going back to the comments, you guys, to see if yes, Meredith, great way to learn perspective. Yes. You can, small things that will work with scenes. Yes. Yes, great idea, Margaret. Yes, that's a great idea. Duck, so many possibilities with these, and you can add them. So what I'm showing you is a really simple version. There's nothing else other than the flowers and foliage that is in these compositions. And really, you can do it that way. You don't have to necessarily, have anything else in there, but you can. You could put a little, creature on here. You could, add a lot more little, things kind of peeking around a corner, which would be really cute. Just a little bunny or something that's way in the foreground. That would be so cute. Yes, the possibilities are endless. And even though it's a foundation and all the basic images are in there, it's your own. You're going to make it your own. So it's going to have your style stamped all over it. And, you're going to use your own colors and, no two ever look the same, ever. So that's also what's great about it. Okay, so let's take some of this really light color. We're going to make this light in the background because we want to put those trees in. So this is going to be light back in here. And I'm just, coloring it in. And then maybe this is just a little bluer here. So we can put this color in. If you think it's too dark, pinch your brush off. That's what I do. When I lay it down and I think, oh, that's too dark, I immediately pinch my brush and take some of that color off. Okay, and I'm going to add a little sky in also because I don't want to have to do that after I get these trees in. So I'm just going to You know, kind of make sure I get it back in the corner. This is not anything to be concerned about because it's just adding a little color into the background. And I made it pretty light here too, because I am putting those trees in. And then for the grassy area, let's go with the warmer green, the 177, and we can just brush this in. Always try to, leave some white spaces so you don't have everything looking the same. And we can make this, pretty light because we're going to be adding some grass over the top that's going to also bring more depth and color. And, we might as well do this area here as well. Just brush it in. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. That's a good start. So let's go on to our little rocks. We've pulled the color out of them. So now we want to add some color to them. These are a little bit closer to the foreground. So we're just going to take our little Twintone and, we're just adding a little tiny bit of color in the crack where the rocks come together. And the same in here too, we can do that. And, for this little stump, it's got some areas that could be dark. Okay, and then we can just take a little bit of this blue and just kind of add it to these rocks. And let it just kind of, blend with that brown a little bit. You could add just a little bit of green. There's so much color in the rocks. And the more of these projects that you do, the more you notice stuff like that. Do you just find yourself now when you're, out and about looking at trees and how the branches are and how the leaves are and what colors they are? I do that all the time. Literally do it all the time. And I notice rocks now, especially rocks that are around water. I look at all the colors in them because there are so many. I'm just going to take a little gray now, the N52. And I'm just going to get the very bottom of these really dark. And again, we're literally adding more color to them. You could do this with any gray if you don't have this particular one. And I'm using the blue Twintone now. Again, more color. Okay, so now let's add in, let's add some color to this dock. And we're just going to take it from here. Maybe add a little green to it also. These that are in the background, they're going to be a little bit darker. Meredith, I'd love a scene with historic craft equipment like a loom or spinning wheel seen through an open door or outside a cabin. Oh, how cute would that be? That would be so cute. I love that idea. I always go to like vintage things too. You know, I always just think those are just the funnest things to paint, is something that kind of brings an emotion. You know what I mean? When you look at it, kind of, you know, creates an emotion, you know, and that would be such a kind of a feel good little painting to do. Okay, so now let's see, what do we do next? Let's get the water in. Let's do that. And so we're going to use our blue 565. You could use this, you could tone it down, you could add a little more purple to it, you could warm it up. You know, just whatever, however you want to, whatever color. And I'm getting this, you know, pretty dark back in here. It's coming around the corner. And because we're using our white paint, we don't really have to worry too much about the flow of the water, because we're going to add that in with the white paint. It's going to come down, you know, here, and then it's going to drop down again down here. So we just really need to make sure we have enough color so we can see that white paint. And then, you know, when it comes to, you know, down here, there's going to be a lot more light down in this flat part. It's closer and more closer to the foreground. So, you know, in here, we could leave it just a little bit lighter. And then really kind of focus the dark color under here, under this little pier. How's everybody doing? Am I going too fast? Gotta go finish. Okay, Georgia. See you later. Who's doing with, you know what? I've asked that like 3 times. And you guys probably have already answered me and I missed it. So if you're doing this with me, let me know. You know, take your time with the water. You know, water, it seems to always be really kind of intimidating, and it is intimidating, especially when you get into a bigger area. If you're doing a tiny little stream, it's not so bad, but when you're doing a bigger area, it can be really intimidating. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little of this green and we're going to mix it with the blue. This is that 228 green. So I'm just taking a little bit of that and mixing it in here. And I just want to make sure that I'm darker kind of along the bank. See how that just kind of popped those little rocks up out of the water? And then down around this way too. And then we'll come back in, and I'm just going to make sure that I have enough color here as this water comes down. I want to make sure that I get this dark enough. And then back here too, as it kind of comes around. Okay, let's go on to the little boat, and we are going to do this little boat red. So I am using my 856. You could do this boat whatever color you want to do it. You know, there's no right or wrong way. You could, you know what, here it is fully red. Let's do a variation of it, and let's do it red and white. In that case, we're going to see a shadow on this side. So we're going to see that blue shadow here. And then the red, we can do the red down below. Kind of looks patriotic now. And you could leave just a little white line here too if you want to. Now it really looks patriotic. Just make sure there is a definite space in between this and this crack right here. And let's add some brown in here just to do the little bench. So where are these benches? Right here and right here. And this, you know, this down in here, this would be a shadow because we'd be able to see the side of the boat, and a little shadow under here also. So here's how you would do it. You could do it completely, you know, solid, or you could add different colors. You know, yellow and a little yellow and red would be really cute too. And we can do a little detail on here with the white paint too. And I think I'm going to just come in here with my Twintone and really darken the side of these little seats here and this front part. Okay. And you know what? Since I've got my Twintone, I might just add a few little details on here too. And these, you know, back here in the background, you know, they're darker. Ellen says, I'm not doing it with you. I need more time. I get it. I totally get it. And you know what? If doing it with me is stressful, because it's too fast, then it's better just take your time. Although, you know, you could do it with me and then you could do it again later, because the second time you do it, you probably like it better. It just, you know what? I mean, just getting it down and getting a feel. Okay, I'm making some little planks here with my Twintone. All of these details that we're putting in, like the lines on the cottage, those would be too dark if they were included in the stamp. So, you know, it's kind of, I mean, it may sound like a negative because you have to draw it in, but in the long run, it's going to look much more like a painting if you do it yourself. And there's nothing to it. So basically, I just made some little lines straight down, and then I kind of carried those lines over. And, you know, they don't even have to go all the way over. But you're going to be so much happier, and it's going to look so much more natural if we do it like this. Okay, so let's add, sorry, I know it probably feels like I'm kind of jumping around, but you know, they are like that because you start on one thing and then you're like, oh, maybe I should just add some of that to this. And it feels like you're really kind of jumping around a little bit, but I don't know, that's probably how painters work too. I've never been a painter, so I would think they would. Are any of you actual oil painters or watercolor painters? And what would you say about that? So I'm just, you know what? I'm making little tiny dots and little details in here. So let me just hold this up. Do you see the little dots on the rock? It's just my brush just kind of jumping around like this and making texture, because, you know, rocks are not completely smooth. And they don't look like a ball out there. They've got little nooks, and, you know, they've been beat up by the water. And so they've got, like, you know, tiny little divots in them. And just doing these things, you guys, it makes such a difference. It really does. It's all the little tiny things. That's what it is. It's all the little stuff. But you know what? You get it. You'll get it. And then you can just create the most amazing things. just these little paintings. And nobody would look, by the time it's done, all said and done, no one would ever guess that it was stamped if you give it away and put it in a frame. They will never guess. And you don't need to tell them. I always tell people that. You don't need to tell them it's stamped. It's your creation, and well, maybe you use stamps, but you put all the colors in and all the foliage in, and that's the big part of it. And it could just be your secret. So I'm adding a little bit more color up here to the top because I don't have anything growing up here. I'm just going to put some leaves on. But you know, you can make any of these things darker. You could turn this into a really cute birch tree too. That would be cute. Okay, now let's move on to the next step. And you know what? Let's just put a little color in here. And you can see by the time you're done, your palette is really kind of mixed up. I've got some brown in here and I've got a little green. And that's okay because you don't have all the exact same colors. And it's really nice to do that because all of these things will make your projects look more realistic. And you know what? Let's do this while we're at it. So we need a shadow above this door. So that pops that out. Sets it back. Actually, that's what it does. Sets it back into the doorway. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put in our foliage. And we can put in our grasses. And I'm just going to use my 249 green and my little tiny grass right here. And let's just move this out of the way now. I feel like you guys have seen it. Pretty clear. And look how different this looks than this one. I mean, this is what happens. They never look the same. They're always changing. And every time I do one, I think, oh, I'm going to do this next time, or I'm going to try this next time. And they're always changing. So I love that about it. All right, so now we can put this grass in wherever you want to put it. And I always tend to put it, by the house, kind of growing up next to the house because, probably who's going to be mowing this yard? Probably not a lot. And then, kind of down in here, it kind of depends on how brushy you want this to look. If you've got a specific place that you want to, or a specific look that you're trying to kind of match, you could add a lot more foliage in here. But sometimes, just the idea of it is enough. In other words, you don't have to stamp this grass over every single inch of this section here. Stamping it in a few places gives the impression that this is grassy. You get the idea that there's grass growing on here because we've got that green color underneath and we're kind of pulling this color up. You can kind of hang it out over the back and brush it in. So you get that this is grassy here without having to stamp that grass into every single section. That's not necessary. And actually it makes it look overdone. Kind of growing this grass kind of over the water a little bit. And maybe you want this, to be a little more open in here. Again, that's kind of up to you. Okay, everybody with me so far? Painting is not a linear process. That's what I value about your instruction. I make notes as you teach, and I value that so much. Thank you so much for that comment, Anna. It isn't. I don't feel like it is either. And, one thing, you finish one thing, you think, oh, that makes me think about this other thing. And, oh yeah, I need to do that too. And then you're kind of completing the whole picture. And if you just take your time and you just kind of enjoy the process because it is really fun. And this technique and the way that we do it, there's really no stress involved. There really isn't. We know how to stamp grass. You know, we know how to add a shadow. We know how to add color. And really, that's what we're doing. We're doing the same thing every time. It's just in a different way or with a different stamp. See how that dark under the rocks really makes a difference. It just really adds a lot. Okay, so now I feel like that's probably enough. You know, you can add a lot more in here like this one. I have a lot more florals in here, but if you want it to look like it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, you could have some florals in here, but you probably don't want too many. Let's just add a few of these little wildflowers, these little blue ones. Let's just put a few of these kind of in the background. And then, you know, we don't need to overdo it. And maybe you don't want any florals in there, depending on who you're sending it to. Maybe you just want it to look a lot more rustic. Try to keep my hand out of the way, you guys. I'm sure that is so annoying to have it zoom in and out. We got to find a solution to that. So I'm just touching it so that it looks more like ground cover. Okay, so now let's do, let's get our leaves in the trees and our vines up that are growing along the tree. So I'm going to use a different green. So I'm going to use my 177 and my larger vine. And I'm just going to grow this around the tree. And maybe I'll just start here. And maybe I just have a little bit growing here. Or it's just kind of coming up and around. And just, you know, just tap it, just like we always do. And I only used, you know, a little bit of the branch. So I didn't use this whole section down here. I just inked the top, just the tip, and stamped it a couple times. And then let's add maybe just a little shrub growing out, like the other one. Maybe just a little flowering bush, so we could use our white paint. And maybe we've got just another one over here too. And just gonna touch it. And really, you know, with these, you really kind of want to focus the color at the base and leave these little areas out here a little more detailed, because this is where it would be concentrated. The color would be concentrated anyway, would be right down in there. And let's do, let's wait to add the little branch until we get our white paint in here. And then we can add some of that little branch if we want to. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more brown in here. And you can see I still left that highlight on these little contours here in the stump. So I still left those highlights on top. Okay, so now let's get the leaves in the tree. And you can use both colors, 2 greens if you want to. Let's do the warmer green to start. And I'm just going to add it in like this. You really don't want to, you don't really want to bring it too far across because you want to give the impression that this is a big, tall tree. So you don't want to bring the leaves clear down to here, and you don't necessarily want to bring it all the way across the front. So your mind looks at it and thinks, wonder how big this tree really is and where's it all going? Because I only see one branch and, you know, these leaves coming off. So this must be huge and it must keep going up. So let's add a few of these now, maybe this smaller one with a different green here. And we can just put a few more branches like this in, little vines. Just a little bit more detail. Okay. That looks pretty good. So now we need to put in our trees in the background. If we have space for those, we should. So I'm going to cover up the house. All my little scraps of Post-it tape, you guys. Okay, so I'm going to cover this up like this. And I'm going to maybe just bring those trees down. I don't have room for too many, but we'll get a few in there. And this will cover the house so that we don't stamp over the top of the house. So we can add these in here and leave a little space, you know, so that you don't get this foliage confused with this foliage. And let's see how that looks. Because we can always go back and add more to it. And maybe we need some more up here. I kind of feel like we do. We need some more back in the background. So I'm just going to put this back. And just ink this again. There, I feel like that's good. And you know what? We should have some down here. So let's do this. Let's block this off. And let's block this off. And let's block this. And let's stamp that tree right in there. Let's block this off too. There we go. Perfect. Now with these, you know, we don't need to have too much water. We want to see the details of them. So you could kind of blend them out a little bit, and you can kind of draw that color down since we have that tape there. So it kind of leaves a bit of a white border. So you can kind of bring that color down. And then this back in here. Okay. That looks pretty good. All right, so now, what do we need to do? Are we ready for the white paint, guys? Kind of feel like we are. Let's see, do we want to, you know what? Let's add a few little florals in here, just so that I can show you how to do it. And I've got this little one from the mini flower set. And we can just add, let's keep it really simple. Let's do the blue. Make sure I've inked this. Yeah, that's good. And we can just put some of these in here and maybe some in here too. And these two, you know, they don't need a lot of water. So cute. Okay, so now let's see, what do we need to do? Just gonna make a little line across there where that tree, where those trees just kind of end. Sometimes adding all the little details in at the end takes as long as doing the actual painting of the painting. Just because you see all these little things that that maybe you didn't see before. And I'm gonna just take my fine tip, and I'm gonna just tie this boat to the dock. Like so. Okay, what else do we need to do? I think that actually that looks pretty good. I think maybe we're good with this one. So let's do the, let's take the tape off and then we'll add the white paint to it. And you guys be sure to say in the comments if you would like to win this, because we will pick a winner. Leo will pick a winner. Okay, how cute is that? Sometimes when the tape comes off, like it just, you're just like, wow, that all kind of came together. All right, so let me erase, let me grab my pencil here and let me just erase the lines. Now you can cut it before you erase the lines if that's easier. Then you have it in a square. So sometimes you can see the color is lighter and darker along the edges, so it can be a little difficult to line up when you're cutting it. So if that makes it easier, you can cut it before you erase the lines off of here. Look at just how cute that is. These are just so much fun to do. They are just so much fun. Okay, so let's add our white paint, my favorite part. And I'm gonna just use my my little brush. Try to keep my hand out of the way. So I dip my brush in water and I'm just kind of thinning it down a little bit. And if you thin it down and you notice it doesn't cover as well, just go over it again. Just do another coat. So I had a little heart on the boat that I just thought was so cute. Is that just so cute? And then, you know, you can add some more texture to things, you know, like these stumps to your tree, and especially to the roof, you know, along the edge, because it lifts it up because it catches the light. So it gives you the impression that it's lifting all these little shingles and things that are on here. I'm just giving you a lot more interest. Okay, now you can go in here and you can add a little highlight back into your stones if you feel like you need to do that. If you feel like they kind of got washed out a little bit. I always like to add a little light edge to the roof too, because I feel like that also kind of moves it, makes it, brings it up a little bit. Okay, so now let's add just a little bit of white wildflowers in here. I don't need too many. And we can put a few in here also. And, you know, you can make these little white flowers bigger. So they don't just have to be a dot. They can be bigger like this. It's just a bigger patch of white. Okay, so now I'm going to dip my brush. And all we're going to do is we're just going to make some foaming water here. It's literally a series of, you know, dots. Don't overthink it. It's going to give you the impression that the water is foaming at the bottom. And that's what it's doing. It's just foaming. And you can do another one up here. You know, where it's kind of coming down. And then I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to make a couple of little lines. Just like that. Don't worry about it too much. It's just the direction that the water is going. And you could put a couple of them up here as well. You know, where it just looks like the water is kind of churning. And that's it, you guys. There's really nothing to it. I'm just going to get a little edge on this. It makes it look a little more rustic because the white paint catches the light, and so it makes it look like it's kind of jagged. You know, the posts are rough. Okay. I think that is about finished. What do you guys think? This would be such a fun card to make for someone. And then, you know, the journal. You know, making the journal is just so fun. Okay, so now the last thing to do is sign and date, of course. And we are finished with this. And I just see one thing here that I just need to fix, and it's this little window pane that is just bugging me. Okay. There's always just one more little tiny thing that has to be done. Okay, what do you guys think? We are finished with this project. It was so much fun. Okay, sorry, one more thing. I just saw it. We need a little shadow next to the boat. There we go. Now it's really done. Okay, I'm going to switch my camera around so that I can say hi to you guys and goodbye. Okay, you know what? I feel like I did better on the comments this time. I mean, I had to scroll back a little bit, but you guys be sure to say if you would like to win it, because I will be giving it away. And then next week, if you would like to see another live with these, say so in the comments, because I can do another live, and then tell me which one you want to see. There are 3 left. Let me see. Let me tell you which ones they are. There are 3 left. So the picket fence, the little village, and the creek, the cottage creek. So these 3 are left. So tell me which one you want to see next. The little creek, the little village, or the picket fence. So we can do either of these, and I will try to give you another option other than what is on the packaging so that you have a little more inspiration. And I can do that next week. Unless you want to move on and do something totally different, we can do that too. So I will read through and see what your thoughts are. Diane says, love the Cottage Creek. Okay. Ruth Ann, is Kendra coming home for the summer? She isn't. She has been selected to participate in an anatomy, some sort of anatomy thing. I don't even know all the details, but she will be doing that in the summer in the anatomy lab. She has 1 more week of school. You guys, this is her last week, and she will be finished with her first year. So she will be back next week on Back to Basics. Those of you who have been waiting for her, she has been so busy. Oh my goodness, closing out everything, test after test, stress after stress. So she will be thrilled to be finished with her first year. I'm really proud of her. We are all so proud of her. She has worked so hard. And it's not easy to be in medical school. It's really not easy to be in any graduate program. So she's done really well, but she will stay where she is during the summer. Hopefully, maybe at the end, she can come home for a week or so. But we will not see her home for this summer. And then hopefully home for Christmas after that. So you guys keep praying for her. She appreciates that so much. And your support and all of your encouragement means the world to her. So, okay, well, you guys, I'll see you next week. Don't forget, I always forget to tell you guys this, the doorways, the 4th of July doorway set is out. So this works with the door that we've released with all those different sets. So you don't have to have the door, but this little set is, it's really fun, and it comes with all the dies. So it comes with all the images to create this little scene, and it comes with all the dies. So they can be used in a ton of different ways, including watercolor. So keep that in mind. Those are available now on our website. Check out all the scenic foundations. They are just so much fun. Look for more in the future, you guys. I loved all your positive thoughts, and there's just so much fun to make. And so I'll be doing more of them. And I love all your ideas. Keep them coming. They really, I keep track of them all and write them all down. So you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks for being with me. It was so much fun as always. And I hope you guys love this project. I will be back next week on Wednesday for another Watercolor Wednesday. And I hope to see you guys all back with me again. Have a great day and have a great weekend.